Is the U.S. going for a one and done mega aid package to Ukraine? But is Russia firmly pivoted to the offense? And just why are they advancing where they are? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's October 8th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. Taking a look first at the control map, there's been a bunch of changes actually. So first we have Russian success going in the north here near Makivka. As you can see, here's the town itself, and Russian forces again making some progress in a number of different places, but none of which really are bringing them closer to actually seizing or gaining a foothold within Makivka. You can see here they're advancing, taking some of these windbreaks and forested areas that are kind of nearby, occupying this forested area here. But all in all, it's not really clear that this brings them closer to seizing Makivka. And as you can see here, they're also working to advance to the south, but you can see pretty clearly that they're a long way from Nevsky, which is the only town of any value, and this isn't really an approach to Nevsky. They'd be better served focusing on Makivka, and it's not clear to me that seizing these individual windbreaks really confers a lot of tactical or strategic value. You also have Russian forces advancing near Krasnohorivka, and you can see here again they're advancing into this contested windbreak, this particular salient right here. It's not really clear that this is on the road to anywhere. This may be part of a move towards the Stepove. But as you see, as we zoom out, it's again not clear that this is anything. It may be part of this, at this point, year-long effort by Russia to encircle Avdiivka, but it's been so long and so fruitless that it seems really unlikely that they're going to achieve it. Because remember, as you can see here, the roads into and out of Avdiivka really hinge on Orlivka, and advancing into this open terrain is just not going to allow them to do that. They want to instead try to attack probably along these roadways here, try to get a foothold into this rail line here near Stepove, but this is just not. And again, I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's tactically worthless, but it doesn't appear to be part of a larger strategy, especially paired with the fact that the third location where they're pushing is this Marfopil. And you can see here Marfopil a long way from Avdiivka, which itself, again, it's a little bit of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Russian forces withdrawing near this village here, near the actual village of Marfopil, in exchange for advancing near these windbreaks. And it puts them kind of sort of within striking distance-ish of this Chervone. But this is area that was liberated earlier in the counteroffensive, and it's not super clear that these advances, that this trade-off has even really been worth it. It seems like maybe even you could argue Ukraine got the better because Ukraine is now better positioned to push into Marfopil, whereas Russia is not necessarily better positioned to push into Chervone, especially given these hills that Russia still has to get up and into. So when we look at this, right, the overall theme, and actually let's take a look. There's a couple of liberated regions for Ukraine. You can see here, this is outside Kopani, and a larger area is now listed as contested. Again, likely part of a Russian effort or a Ukrainian effort rather, to expand this salient and make it look a little less like a bubble in the lines and expand it to start to shave off Russian forces who, again, imagine you're a Russian defender in Kopani, like the 237th. You are facing Ukrainian forces on your eastern flank and on your northern flank. So the pressure is kind of naturally on at this point. And so it makes sense that Ukraine is going to want to ratchet that up. That's likely what this effort is. They may actually try, you may see them actually try to force the 503rd out of Nesteryanka, since that is, again, if they can liberate some of this area, this force too will find itself with Ukrainian forces on to their north, to their east, and to their west. A real problematic position to have to fight in. So you can see that this is. Wait. One last change is, again, south of Belohorivka, near the town of, God help me, Verkhonokamyanka. You can see here Ukrainian forces making like a marginal, almost a map correction level of advance. Or I'm sorry, retreat. A very little tactical value exchanged. Again, just totally tiny. But unlike these other ones, this is an exchange on the road to somewhere valuable, right? This is the road connecting the town of Verkhonomiansky to Verkhonokamyanka. And seizing control of this roadway is going to enable one force or another to push into those towns. So this is a small but valuable contestation. The fighting near Makivka, very, very low value. And I am not optimistic for Russia's efforts to push near Krasnohorivka. All that to say, it's indicative, though, that Russia has done two things. First, it's returned to the offensive, nearly 68 combat engagements across the front line, but that Russia appears to be focusing primarily on using square miles of territory as a metric for success. And we've noticed that that has kind of dominated the narrative recently because cities and towns of any significance aren't really changing hands at this point, right? The whole of Ukraine's counteroffensive, we haven't seen any major towns, any major cities liberated, right? Not in the same way that Russia took Bakhmut or whatever was left of Bakhmut when they got done with it. But you can see that the town of Bakhmut is a proper urban center. No other urban centers close to this size have changed hands since. And I think that you're seeing increasingly the conversation be dominated by a metric of who is liberating more square kilometers of territory. I think that's why you're seeing Russia pivot to this everywhere all at once model, because it's going to be probing for where Ukrainian forces are weak, where their defenses are light, and where Russia can make gains that it can then tout in propaganda forums and to the international community, showing that Russia is in fact winning when, again, we're not seeing specific villages or specific urban areas or areas of even significance being targeted. You can also see here, again, maps probably not updated 8 hours ago. There is reportedly some Ukrainian forces liberating areas near Andriivka. This is the town south of Bakhmut, likely them crossing this rail line into Russian-held territory, possibly even behind this network of reservoirs that would really, if Ukraine could get behind it, would pose a significant problem for Russian forces. Now, let me know in the comments, guys, if you guys want me to do a video, maybe a weekly video breaking down the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Israel-Hamas conflict. It's a really interesting situation. Hamas is a strange non-state actor that is still somehow able to launch these very sophisticated offensive actions, and it's worth a conversation. But let me know in the comments if you want something like that to happen. Of course, guys, if you haven't purchased your Strike Gum is the energy drink alternative. Unlike an energy drink that's loaded with sugar, this is zero sugar, 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece, 100 milligrams of alpha GPC. Best of all, every piece of Strike Gum you purchase supports Ukraine. 50% of the proceeds from the first production run are going to support Ukrainian civilians who've been injured or displaced in the conflict. So check us out at strikegum.com. Anyway, the last story that I want to talk about is that Biden appears to be trying to lock in the subsequent Ukrainian support with a $100 billion aid package. What is the idea? Well, the idea is simple. Instead of sending progressively phased aid packages to Ukraine, the idea is that while there is consensus in the House and Senate over the need to aid Ukraine in its fight against Russia, that it's simply easier to commit the United States to a large funding bill, and that way they won't have to pick up the issue again until after the 2024 presidential election. This is interesting because, again, you're going to see that active support for Ukraine is something that the Democratic president is almost certainly going to rely on as evidence of his commitment. And again, you want to see a president, regardless of party, who supports Ukraine in their fight against Russia, supports the right of countries to, not be invaded by bigger, stronger neighbors, right? Might doesn't make right in the international community. But the political realities on the ground dictate that Biden could simply go for a big one-and-done bill and then be able to pivot their focus to other issues until after the next election. It hasn't been official yet, but the rumor is that this is a very popular play among Biden staffers, and it makes sense. It's simply a sensible way to overcome these political issues within the U.S. Politics. And definitely, guys, you can believe it. You can be certain that Russia's offensive is coordinated with this effort. Russia believes that it is functionally fighting Western Europe and the United States. Some propagandists within Russia argue that believe incorrectly that large numbers of U.S. and Western troops are in Ukraine actively engaged in the fighting, that they're just secretly they all learned Ukrainian somehow and with perfect accents in the span of like 6 months, totally rational beliefs there. But the Russia is clearly signaling to the United States with their launching offensive that they are still the more powerful country in this conflict and that U.S. aid has not achieved anything. It's a demoralization push. But as we talk about, again, launching an offensive to nowhere is not the same thing as winning. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Be sure to hit subscribe, check us out, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.